The day is starting off brightly this morning with Tesla up 4%, another $10 to almost 270 last time I checked. We, of course, will check back on that in a little while. The markets, meanwhile, are mixed. Not a lot of news out there this morning. A consumer sentiment survey we'll talk about later was about the only economic news as we continue to be focused, not we, the Tesla community, but the entire world is focused on the the tariff situation. And there wasn't really anything driving any serious news about that this morning. So the Dow is down a little bit. The NASDAQ is doing pretty well. All the Magnificent Seven are ahead so far. And again, we'll check back on that in a minute. Now, Sawyer Merritt reports that here are all of the promotions that Tesla has announced today in the United States. First of all, we're back to having free FSD transfer for the new Model 3, Model Y, Model S, Model X, and Cybertruck orders in North America. And so even the Foundation Series, Launch Series, everything, any car you buy, you can, and you already have FSD on another vehicle, you can transfer that FSD to your new vehicle. That's very cool. That should be a permanent thing. Of course, the community's been asking for that for a long time, but it's working pretty well for Tesla as a promotion. So maybe that's a good way to go. They've announced 0% APR financing for the new Model 3 orders. And it applies to all orders that were placed on or after April 24th and to loan terms of 60 months. And then if you want to go to 72 months, you can get a 0.99% rate. So there you go. Another promotion if you're looking for a Model 3. And by the way, Model 3s, you can get them on lease for $299 a month. And I think you can get certain model, one or more different kinds, I don't know, some kind of a Cybertruck for $799 on a lease. Tesla is also offering $2,000 off the purchase price of a new Model Y if you happen to already have a Model Y and you're trading it in. So there's a good deal. And then there's a deep blue metallic and pearl white paint colors are now included, no extra cost on the Model 3, only on the Model 3 Performance. And you don't have to buy the Model F, you don't have to get the FSD in order to get it. So basically, you've got a couple of additional colors available on the Model 3 Performance if you're interested in those colors. All right, so then Tesla CEO Elon Musk on Tuesday tried to appease investors. This is from, I'm so sorry. I wanted to tell you who this is from, who it was that did this article. I really wanted to include that in my information this morning. I might put you guys on pause for a second here. Oh, yes, Bloomberg. How could I possibly forget? So this is from Bloomberg, this pack of lies. I don't normally take an entire article and just take it apart like this and go line by line, but this one we had to. We just had to. It says here, the Tesla CEO Elon Musk on Tuesday, the earnings call, tried to appease investors worried about its poor performance by saying he's pulling back from government work. But as Business Week's senior reporter Max Chapkin writes today, his ties to Donald Trump and his unpopular policies can't be cut that easily. Plus, India's high tariff on cars is facing pushback now. And why? Okay, so these are other articles that were part of the same article. So first of all, let's start with his ties to Donald Trump and his unpopular policies, except that Donald Trump is sitting at the highest popularity he's had in the 4 years and some months that he's been in office. So those policies don't seem to be. Besides, when they've done polling on the Doge is actually quite popular. The idea of cutting government waste is extremely popular. So there's your first lie in the opening paragraph. Complete lie. Okay, there's a bit of corporate jargon that's useful to describe the circumstances faced by Tesla. Elon Musk's electric car company has headwinds. Okay. This meteorological term, generally deployed by companies to explain away poor performance, will be familiar to anyone well-versed in the lexicon of the American CEO. though it seems especially apt at the moment. Businesses of all sorts face staggering uncertainty, starting with President Donald Trump's tariff policies and the retaliation from other countries, the possibility of a financial crisis or recession, or both, the potential that Trump might bully the chair of the Federal Reserve into doing something disastrous, and perhaps an end to the era of economic and political dominance the U.S. has enjoyed since the end of World War II. Oh, man. You guys think that I take some leaps? This guy takes leaps. And possibly the end to the era of economic and political dominance the U.S. has enjoyed since the end of World War II. Boy, it would take more than tariffs and the decision by the Fed to cut. The disaster might bully the Federal Reserve into doing something disastrous. What would be disastrous? Cutting interest rates? That's what Trump wants the Federal Reserve to do. Is this guy even? And anyway, all of these are problems for Tesla, which reported earnings on Tuesday and revealed that it had one of the worst quarters in its history. There are sinking sales, no explanation at all for why they're sinking. Declining profits, no explanation at all of why that might be. A diminished forecast. Okay, that's true. They didn't forecast a 10 to 20 to 30% increase. So that's the first maybe true statement. And a huge gap between analysts' expectations and the company's actual performance over the previous 3 months. Well, we know about analysts and how their expectations go. And he's only using the analysts, of course, the street analysts. And that's fair. I shouldn't be too critical of that, but it's kind of typical. Musk did his best to wave all of this away, in part by talking up the prospects for the autonomous vehicle and the robotics plans, and in part by blaming forces that were, at least in his accounting, entirely outside of his control. He complained about tariffs, which are completely outside of his control and which he was negative about, very clearly negative to the point of being upset with Bessent and others, and having his brother write an article on X. So he's not in charge of the tariffs, and he's complaining about them. Anger from customers over his involvement with Trump's so-called Department of Government Efficiency. So again, what he would like to do, as so many on X are doing, is you want to blame Trump for the actions of the people who are defacing the centers, defacing cars, criminal behavior. That's Trump's. That's supposed to be Musk's fault. So it's the fault of the victim, because of course, if you go to work for the government for free to try to fight waste, fraud, and abuse, then anybody who does criminal behavior because of that, you blame the person, you blame Musk. That makes a tremendous amount of sense. And he calls it the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. Why is it so called? Why? It seems like, should this be an opinion piece? Why is it a so-called Department of Government Efficiency? Well, there are many near-term headwinds for us, Musk said on the call. The stock responded positively today, and then the next day, and then the next day. So the stock's been going up straight up ever since they had this meeting. So apparently, Musk must have said some really good things. Tuesday's conference call was a master class in the form. After all, Musk has been one of the key players in the external forces he's complaining about. The headwinds are coming from inside the Cybertruck. The headwinds are coming from inside the Cybertruck. It doesn't even make sense. And Elon is main job inside the government is Doge, which is popular, and has nothing to do with tariffs, and has spoken out against them. How come it doesn't say any of that? Musk says, I'm not the president, repeatedly arguing that Trump's decision to implement tariffs was his own, which I just explained, which is true enough, but avoids mentioning that tariffs were a signature issue of Trump's candidacy and that Musk was the largest donor. Musk never said ever any place that he is against tariffs. He says he prefers absolute free trade. Well, by the way, the mainstream media seems to forget that Trump has said over and over again that he would like to have zero tariffs everywhere as long as the other side were acting fairly. This is something that everybody misses. I watched the BG2 podcast last night, and even they missed it. They forgot that Trump has said over and over and over again, I'm perfectly happy to go to absolutely zero, with everybody in the world, including China. He'd go to 0-0 even with China if the rest of their policies were fair and equal, allowing the U.S. to sell into China and not creating benefits to their export programs that undermine U.S. Capabilities in terms of manufacturing. So this is completely, and I got to say, I like the BG2 boys, but they completely missed that too. When Musk was crisscrossing Pennsylvania while spending unprecedented sums on the election, what exactly did he think that money would buy him? He thought it would buy a complete remake of the U.S. system of import-export, and that's what's happening. One answer, of course, is Doge, which Musk personally pitched to Trump last summer and has championed since is existential to the U.S. and possibly to civilization itself. Unfortunately for Musk, it turns out that gleefully cutting funds for food pantries. Okay, so it turns out that gleefully cutting funds to food pantries and religious aid workers while cosplaying as a management consultant is wildly unpopular. No, it's not. It's actually popular. There's people that are using this because they're being harmed by not getting their government, funding or whatever, sometimes illegally or fraudulently. They're out protesting, and people that have completely wrong idea about what's happening with Social Security or Medicare, but those people are unhappy, and sometimes the other side is going to be unhappy too. Not a problem. Yeah, they should be. You can protest. Go ahead and protest. Just don't do illegal acts. During the earnings call, Musk's deputies acknowledged that his transformation from wildly admired green capitalist. Wait a minute, he's never been wildly admired. He was wildly admired by the left, and the right didn't like him at all. So another lie, another failure to nuance. So he hasn't gone from a widely admired green capitalist to trolling Trump surrogate, was hurting the company's sales quarterly. What? Musk deputies acknowledged that his transformation from wildly admired green capitalist to trolling Trump surrogate was hurting the company's sales as company's quarterly earnings call. The future for Tesla is brighter than ever, they said, and it is. Musk is a savant in the fine art of deflection. Who's deflecting? This is what he's been saying for months and months and years. He says, if you don't believe that Tesla is going to do automated vehicles and you don't believe that in the Optimus, then don't buy the stock. The stock responded positively. Tuesday's conference call was a masterclass in the form. I thought I had doubled that one. Sorry. Musk He blamed protests that he said were funded by the fraudulent money of the programs, which he's not the one claiming that. Lots and lots of people are claiming that there's fraudulent money that's out there creating these protests. Leaving aside that this wouldn't exactly speak well of Doge. Why wouldn't it speak well of Doge? It would speak extremely well of Doge if he's uncovering fraud and abuse, and then the people that are doing the fraud and abuse are using the money they got from the fraud and abuse to go out and protest or to create actual terrorism. Why would that not speak well of Doge? The activists have denied really paying protesters. They've denied it. Well, there you go. I think that there's the end of argument. Musk's claims are hard to square with the obvious declines in his popularity in public opinion polls, not to mention the results of Wisconsin's recent Supreme Court election, which he didn't manage to win in 2 weeks, that he got involved in it. Anger against Musk is hardly the exclusive domain of Musk's favorite nemesis, the media, nor the left-wing groups that have made him central to the activism. Anger against Musk is hardly the exclusive domain. Okay. So this is where he explains that. Investors, even some of the most committed Tesla bulls, know this well. In the days before the earnings call, Dan Ives, who just a few months ago was calling Musk's support for Trump a total game changer that would be a bet for the ages, urged Musk to leave government and focus on running Tesla. Anyone who thinks that brand damage Musk, the brand damage, another error here by them, anyone that thinks that the brand damage Musk has inflicted is not real thing, spends some time speaking to car buyers in the U.S., Europe, and Asia, Ives wrote in a note on Sunday, as reported by my colleague, Dana Hull. you will think differently after those discussions. Well, Dan Ives and I have parted company on that particular situation, and this guy hasn't managed to dig any deeper to see whether maybe the sales loss in the first quarter had nothing to do with brand damage and nothing to do with the protests, but in fact had to do with a complete transformation of all of the lines of the Model Y. The big news Tuesday, beyond the usual boast about the brave new autonomous future that Musk has promised for almost a decade without much to show for it, was that Musk is creating the best autonomous system in the world, according to just about anybody who's written it, was that Musk is indeed stepping back from Doge. I think starting production next month in May, my time allocation to Doge will drop significantly, Musk said. The promise was actually less surprising and probably less significant than it might seem. Since the beginning of the Trump administration, we've known that Musk's days in Washington would be limited by his status as a special government employee, a category of federal worker restricted to about 4 months of full-time employment a year. Okay, yes, we've known that. That's 100. There you go. A correct and true paragraph. Moreover, Musk made clear that although he regards Doge's work as mostly done, a strange claim given how far short the group has fallen on its plan to cut $2 trillion from the federal budget. Okay, but what was Musk's job? Musk's job was to set it up. He brought in all these other powerful CEOs who are willing to do the job for free, come in and help with the job for free. That's what Elon Musk does. He's not the guy that sits there all day long and makes, goes through the paperwork and figures out what to do. And so far, he's taken care of 200 billion of the 1 trillion that he agreed he was going to try to cut. He says he has no intention of giving up his status as the most enthusiastic member of the presidential entourage. Musk said he will spend a day or two per week advising Trump for the next 3.5 years, just to make sure that the waste and fraud that we stopped does not come roaring back. I assume the author says, I assume the breakfast buffet at Mar-a-Lago isn't bad either. I'm 100% sure that's what Elon's interested in. That is the stupidest comment in the entire article, among many, many stupid comments. 2 days a week would be a huge time commitment for a man who runs 6 companies and ensures that Musk will be tied to Trump's most unpopular policies for the foreseeable future, the Doge Commission. This isn't to say that Musk won't benefit from the continued association with the world's most powerful man. There are numerous signs that he is attempting to funnel government contracts to other companies, especially SpaceX. Where? Show me the signs that Elon Musk has had anything to do with funneling $1 towards his other companies. He doesn't bother to do that. He just throws out this claim. But it also means these pesky headwinds he mentioned on the Tesla call aren't going anywhere. Well, there you go. I had to do that. I'm sorry if it was boring or unnecessary. Well, I thought it was it's Bloomberg. I know. What are you going to do? Waymo says that they're now doing 250,000 rides per week. I think that's a phenomenal achievement, to be sure. And they are doing this with just 700 vehicles. Now, that means they're doing about 35 rides per week per vehicle. I'm sorry, I completely did that wrong. 250,000 rides per week, yes, means that they're getting 350 rides per week per vehicle. That would be about 50 rides per day. Yeah, I did this math wrong. So if Tesla were to deploy just 5,000 vehicles and get the same results, they would be doing 250,000 rides per day, or 3.5 million. Not 3.5. I'm so sorry. They would be doing 7 times as many. I mean, sorry. Yes, 7 times as many. They'd be doing, 1.6 million rides per week. So, I mean, it's really just math. 7 times as many. All right. And guess how many? This would take 1 day of worldwide production to put out 5,000 vehicles. 1 day of worldwide production, they could put 5,000 vehicles out there, and they would be doing 7 times as many rides as Waymo is doing now, after how long? After being in business, trying to do this for a couple of years. This is Randy Kirk. Hit like, subscribe, notify, all that stuff. Consumer Sentiment Index came out this morning and fell for the fourth straight month, plunging 8% from March, while the April decline in current conditions was modest. The expectations index plummeted with drop-offs in personal finances as well as business conditions. Expectations have fallen a precipitous 32% since January. Don't forget that they had gone up the most in history. So when they go up the most in history, coming down a lot in his isn't that crazy. This is the steepest 3 month percentage decline since the 1990 recession. While this month's deterioration was particularly strong for middle-income families, expectations worsened for the vast swaths of the population across age, education, income, and political affiliation. Now, again, it would have been wise for these folks to say that the numbers had gone up dramatically after Trump's election, and so coming down dramatically is not as shocking as it would otherwise be. Consumers perceive risks to multiple aspects of the economy, in large part due to ongoing uncertainty around trade policy and the potentially for a resurgence of inflation looming ahead. And they should be afraid of this because the mainstream media has been trumpeting all of these things from the headlines for weeks, even though I've explained to you over and over again, they haven't listened to me, that the odds of inflation are extremely low, even with the tariffs, and that most people are saying no recession. I'm the one that's talking about the potential for a recession having nothing to do with tariffs, but nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about how we might get a recession from the fact that we're not allowing any more immigration into the country, illegal immigration, and that we're sending people back. That could cause a slight dip in the economy because of it, and that we're laying off government workers and cutting government contracts instead of increasing both of those. That could also cause a recession. Nobody mentions that. It's all about the tariffs. I just don't get it. Without reliably strong income, spending is unlikely to remain strong, and the numerous warning signs are perceived by consumers. So they're worried about losing their jobs. And that's a possibility, especially from AI, but nobody mentions that in these consumer analysis because the people are just reading the headlines. They're not paying attention to the real underlying things that are going on. AI is probably going to cause some job losses this year. Year-ahead inflation expectations surged from 5.0 last month to 6.5% this month. There is zero chance. I'm going to say it out loud. You can write it down. You can bookmark it. You can paste it on my forehead. You can tattoo it on my ankle. There is not a chance in the world that inflation will be at 6.5% this time next year. This is the highest reading since 1981 and marked 4 consecutive months of unusually large increases of 0.5 percentage points or more. This month's rise was seen across all three political affiliations. As seen in the chart, inflation expectations evolved with major trade policy announcements this month. After the April 9 partial pause in tariff increases, inflation expectations ebbed, but remained substantially elevated relative to March. Long-term inflation expectations climbed from 4.1% in March to 4. I'm gonna do it again. You can write this down. You can bookmark it. You can do whatever you want to do to remind me later about my error. There isn't a chance in the world that inflation will be at 4% this time next year. In fact, there's the remotest chance that the CPI, PPI, CPE, PCE rather, will be at 3%, which is where it is now roughly. There's a remote chance that it'll be at 3% this time next year. Write it down, bookmark it, remind me of my stupidity. I'm telling you, there ain't a chance in the world that this time next year, those will be above 3. We're above 3%. We might see a little blip because of price increases later this year, but this time next year, it'll be coming down, not going up, because that's the nature of price increases as opposed to inflation. We get the blip up, but then when you make the comparison to the same month, this same month, let's say the third quarter, and then you're in the third quarter next year, you don't have that price increase next year, so the inflation rate goes down. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. All right, let's take a look at where things are now. By the way, later today you're going to get Larry Goldberg, and then depends. I'm going to be doing something later this morning with Phil Beisel. I may run that tonight or tomorrow morning, and I have part 2 of the Sir Basher video, which I'll either one or the other or both. We'll see what happens, how that works out. But 7:45 tonight, you're probably going to get Phil Beisel. Although that Sir Basher video, our second video, he even remarked how good it was. So maybe that'll be tonight. I don't know. We'll see what happens. All right, so let's take a look at where things are now in the markets. And what we've got Tesla is now up 7% this morning. 7%. What is going on? Maybe something happened while we've been talking that I'm not aware of. It's up 7% to 277.63. Oh my goodness! It's only 6.74 now, so it's a little profit taking coming in. The Dow Jones is down 0.53. It's about where it's been all morning. Actually, a little worse than it was earlier. And the NASDAQ is up 0.34%, and it's been jumping around back and forth around zero. The S&P is up, down right now at 0.02. It's been up and down also. But no, Tesla is the shining star. It is up. Something's happened. Maybe I should put guys on pause again and go find out what happened. Let's see if anything is actually showing here. Robotaxis just got a step closer, so maybe people are just realizing about what the Department of Transportation did yesterday. I don't know, but 7%, that's what's happening. 276, remember now, we're on our way to all-time high by the end of May. I said it. You saw Nicholas Gibbs last night go, yeah, technically that could happen. Did I say Nicholas Gibbs again? Bradford Ferguson last night said, yep, the charts say we could be back to all-time highs by the end of May. So Apple is down a little tiny bit this morning, but the rest of the Mag 7 are up. NVIDIA up 2%. Go down to the Cathie Woods. They were all up a minute ago, but now they're mixed. Mostly down, but all marginally. No, some of these ARC is CRISPR's down, TDOC is down. Yeah, so actually, if whichever way they're going, it's not minimal. It's 1 or 2% in either direction, and it is mixed. So that's a very bizarre looking chart for the Cathie Woods. All right, let's go ahead and look at the bonds. Good. Here we go. We're down 2.7 on the 10-year, 2.7, I just changed in front of me, 2.3 basis points down to 4.282, not even back to 4.25 yet. Come on, let's go. The 2-year is down 0.4 of a basis point, and the 2-month is actually up a bit this morning, 0.6 of a basis point. But the directionality of the 10-year right now is the way we want it to go, although even as we're sitting here, it is moving slightly higher. The yields are moving slightly higher, even as I'm watching, back to 4.284. We'll see what happens later in the day. All right, let's go to the oil. We have the oil is down 31 cents to 62.48, right where it's been. Not much to report there. Same thing with Brent. Natural gas, starting to see some folks bargain hunting here because it got under $3. We're still under $3, but it is up 1.26% at $2.97. Gold down 56 to 32.92. So now under 33. Did I say it was, how much did I say it was down? It's down $56 this morning. Anybody who paid attention to me the other day, because I wasn't giving investment advice when I said that 3,500 was crazy and that you should sell. Silver is down 1.73% this morning to just under $33, and copper is down 1% to $4.80. That's still very strong for copper. The dollar is mixed. Bitcoin is continuing up, following Tesla now again. I don't know. Up 2%, up 2,000 to 95,616. So many people think it's going to go back to all-time high of around 111,000, I think, roughly. Okay, there you go. That is where things are this morning. I'd love for you to say that you like what I did this morning, or you just like me, or you like my shirts. any reason at all, hit the like button. Don't just think about it. Go ahead and hit the like button. Hit subscribe, hit notified to remind you Larry Goldberg will be here later today. I've got stuff to talk about with Larry, and then I can't even decide which one is going to be better of the two opportunities you're going to have tonight, either Sir Basher or Phil Beisel. So you should definitely want to hit notify for that. And then, hey, maybe you'd like to join a Patreon, or maybe you'd like to jump up here right on YouTube. You can become the fourth person. We have 3 people now that are members of my YouTube channel after I started doing that a couple of weeks ago. Maybe you'd like to become number 4 or 5 or 6. Anyway, I've got to get out of here. It's been great talking to you, though.